Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the very last week of Get Over Yourself. I have really loved this book. This is chapters 15 and 16 if you're wondering where we're at. I've really liked this book because I feel like it addresses all of the stuff that we all deal with as network marketers, and that's why we read it, to get all of us in our right mindset for doing this amazing side business or business, not side business, whatever it is for you. But it's been really helpful for my mindset and just getting my priorities straight and all of that. So I hope you guys have learned as much as I have because I've loved it. So I'm really excited to lead chapters 15 and 16 today because these are things that I really needed to hear. So I know that they will be valuable for you too, but these are specifically things that I've dealt with a lot in my personal business. So it just touches home for me quite a bit. So the first chapter here, chapter 15, it's a family affair. And this talks a lot about getting your family involved in your business, which I think is super, super important. It's really good to dream with our families, like with your spouse, with your children, with your parents, with your sisters, with whoever it is, so that they are on board with you and then that they're cheering you on. This has been a huge thing for me and a huge hurdle for me because my husband has not always been on board. So it was really nice to read this, to get a few tips on how to get him a little bit more involved and to help future people get their husbands and their spouses and their kids on board too, so that they can all dream together and do this together. So the main thing that you want to do with your family is let them know what's in it for them. So this is where I really struggled. I wasn't really doing this in the beginning, but letting your husband know, like, this is why I'm spending so much time. This is why I'm investing all of this because of us. I'm doing this for us, not just for me, right? So letting them know that your business is going to take a little bit of time away from them. You're not going to necessarily have as much time to watch TV and hang out on the couch or be available for your children. I don't have kids yet, but she was saying that she would tell her kids, I might not be as available at every beck and call that you have for me, or when I'm on the phone, you might need to be a little more quiet than you usually are, and just kind of incorporating them into your business and making them feel like they're a part of it and letting them know that there might be times that you have to take time away from them in order to grow your business. But if you show them the importance of it and you're dreaming together, they will be a little more receptive to it and more open to you taking time away because they know you're doing it for the good of the whole family rather than for just your own personal gain. Like, for instance, some things that I thought were good ideas for getting your husband on board or your significant other in general, letting them know why and what's in it for them so they can support you, saying, like, I'm doing this so that I can take some of the financial burden off of you, or I'm doing this because I want to build a larger vacation fund for us so we can do more things together as a family. And just making sure that it's really about all of you and things that they actually are going to like. So she did say there are some people that have retired their husbands. And if you say to your husband, I'm doing this so that we can retire you, but he really likes his job, he might actually resent that. So find things that are important to your husband, to your kids, so that you can make sure that they are in with it too, and they are right along with you, cheering you on because they want those things for the whole family. So, for instance, if she was saying, if your husband really likes to golf, saying, I'm really trying to grow this large vacation fund so we can go on these vacations and you can go golfing at these amazing, golf courses. Making it about them so that they see what's in it for them in the long run. Making sure that they know to take part of those responsibilities at home. So having your kids do a few more chores, or having your husband cook more nights of the week so that you can take the night to go to an event or to help your team or to be on the phone. Just splitting the tasks a little bit more so that you can get some things done and grow your business that way. So I thought that was really cool. She also mentioned doing a vision board on your own, which we actually do. We encouraged that this past year in what we did for Jewel School. But doing a vision board on your own is great, and doing a vision board as a family is even better, because then you can all say what you're excited for and what you're looking forward to, and it helps all of you push toward the goal rather than it just being you doing it on your own and them, having some kind of resentment towards it. She also talked a lot about, at the end, how to handle an unsupportive husband. And this is where I really listened up, because we've had some struggles here. But she was saying many husbands, after a while, they will come around. So sometimes it takes making a larger sum of money. Sometimes it takes just, getting them to dream with you. But don't let their negativity or their non-support derail your dreams. This past year has been hard in this piece for me and my family specifically, but if I would have let my husband's opinions early on derail the things that I had dreamt for myself, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I can't imagine listening to his negativity and letting that sink in so much that I didn't meet myself at my potential. So just don't let them get into your brain so much that you're not getting past those fears. We just have to sometimes grow above the negativity that's coming at us. And that's something that I really had to do this past year quite a bit. Also, just know if you have somebody that's not supportive, that you're not alone. There have been tons of us that have had people that don't support us. Just talk to your upline and get some support from them, because there are people cheering you on, and you want to have those people feeding into you more often than the ones that are saying negative things to you. So just know you're not alone, and it'll all be okay, and your husband will eventually come around. And mine has. He's gotten better. He's not 100% perfect, and he knows that we talk about that quite a bit, but we're getting there. Make sure that you call it our business, or like the family business, rather than like, this is my business. If you say this is our business together, they're more likely to jump on board with you and be dreaming with you too. So I thought that was a really good chapter. I learned a lot from that. Chapter 16 was about getting over fear. I think this is really important for most of us, because we all have fears. She had her entire team write down all of their fears, and I wrote down a few of them, but I couldn't even write them all down because there were so many of them, and all of them kind of rang true at some point in the past year for me, and I know that probably a lot of them will feel familiar to you. So I'll read a few of these off and then talk about them. But she said that some of them had fears of not saying the right thing, looking or sounding stupid, exuding too much confidence or not being confident enough, not being taken seriously, worrying too much what people think of them, what people think of the business, being that person, not having what it takes, if they invest time in the wrong people. So these are all things that I have not struggled with, but like have thought of in the past year. And you just cannot let these things hold you back, because the reality is we all have these fears. We all have different fears that could hold us back, but you have to just overcome them. I'm going to read, I wrote down a few like actual quotes from what she said in this, so I'm just going to kind of read through some of the notes that I took. She said that self-doubt happens to all of us. We all experience disappointments and failures and non-supportive relationships, and over time it can keep us from remembering our dreams and what we're capable of. And it can drown out our possibilities and keep us from where we could really, overcome that and become more than we even imagine. So if we let that fear hold us back, we're not going to get to where we're capable of. Kind of like I was just talking about. If I had let my husband's negativity hold me back, I wouldn't be where I am. If I were to let the fear of what people think of me hold me back, I wouldn't be where I am today either. She also made a really good point that it's no wonder that it's not everybody that makes it to the top. And everybody's capable of doing it, but it's the people that are overcoming those fears and getting past them that are getting there because they're getting past them. So it's not that they don't have fears, because I mean, I'm sure even Fallon, she'll probably chime in here eventually. I'm sure she's had fears and she's a diamond, and I'm sure she still has some fears and she's a diamond, and that's just how it is, but we step through it anyway, and we do things anyway to overcome those fears. She said a lot about how we can't fix anybody's fears, or we can't really even fix our own, because there are emotions that we have. But we just need to overcome them. So a few great quotes that I like, and then I'll let us all discuss it because it's already almost 15 minutes. But she said, this was a Liz Gilbert quote, fear will always show up as we strive for greatness and take risks, because fear hates the uncertain outcome. This is totally natural and human, so it'll always show up, and it's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. So don't be ashamed of your fears. Know that they're going to pop up consistently and throughout your business, no matter what level you reach. Just don't be ashamed of it and overcome it. And then she says, courage is routinely required in our business, the courage to overcome these fears. And then Nelson Mandela said, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man or woman is not the one who doesn't feel afraid, but who conquers that fear. The brave act in spite of fear. So like I said, we all have them, but overcoming them and having courage will help us move past them and get to where we should end up. The last quote that I'll use is, there's no greater agony of bearing an untold story inside of you. So just think of where you would love to be, and if you let those fears overcome you too much, that could be holding you back from becoming who you really are capable of that you don't even know yet. So just have courage, you guys. Know that we all have had fears and currently have fears, no matter what rank we are, no matter how successful you think we are, we all have fears too. So just overcome them with us and lean on each other and lean on your upline, and you can really do anything you set your mind to. So anybody have comments on any of those chapters? I thought they were so good. You can unmute yourself.
Yes, I love that so much. So in the beginning of my business, I still remember Fallon getting on the phone with me and Guthrie, and she was like, look, if you want your wife to make a dime with Plexus, you better be supportive. And he was so scared. He's been supportive ever since, but I think she scared him or something. But yeah, it definitely did make all the difference. But, sometimes you got to show them. Sometimes you got to be like, bring in the money, like let him see what you can do, and let it be like a game deal, like, okay, well, I'm going to show him how much money I can make. I'm going to make more than him, or whatever it may be. So if he's not supportive, it's totally like something that will change, because a lot of guys, when they see the money, they're all about it. So, or even the results, like, if like you're a totally different person, like they see how much healthier, happier, less emotional you are, they're going to be excited.
That's so true. Last year, it was my first convention contest, and I was like, oh my gosh, we could go on a cruise. This is crazy. And my husband was like, you're not going to earn that. He literally told me that. It was like this time last year. And I was so offended at first, and then I proved him very wrong, and I earned all the prizes with the cruise and took him on it, and it changed his mind. So that was definitely helpful.
Yeah, totally.
I think sometimes, with spouses, it's an adjustment for sure. Like, they're just not used to it, but taking the position of fear, of being afraid, like, oh my gosh, my husband doesn't like that I'm doing this, or he's upset that I'm on my phone, or he's mad that the dishes aren't done, or that he has to help bathe the kids, or whatever. Sometimes we put, not me, but I've heard a lot of people in my coaching, like, they put their own thoughts onto their spouse instead of being confident or loving what they do or being excited. And then it kind of, I don't know, I think sometimes we just allow maybe their uncertainty about what we're doing to affect us too much, instead of just moving forward confidently and then they get on board because they get the vision. There's been so many, just even Jules on the team whose spouses weren't all in at first. I mean, there's Diamonds, Brooke Hemingway, Jessica Heffley. They were just talking about this in the Diamond page. Like, their spouses weren't on board. Brooke Hemingway's husband's a doctor. He quit now. I mean, they're so close to being a triple diamond family. And he loves all the Plexus stuff, all the benefits, all the family time they get with all of their kids. So I think, you know, you just sometimes have to go confidently in that. If your husband wants the dishes clean when he gets home, work a little faster, break a sweat, get that kitchen clean. Try to do what you can to make it an easy transition. Don't completely neglect him because you're doing a business. Find ways to make it work for both of you. And I mean, I've never seen it not work, and I've never really seen a spouse not get on board. It really is your posture, though, whether they're going to be following it. Maybe not at first. Maybe it takes a while. Sometimes it's taken spouses until Diamond to fully catch the vision.
So my husband was very skeptical when I started Plexus, and it took him a long time. And I just know recently I just persisted. I was consistent, and I think him seeing that I was showing up and, you know, realizing how passionate I was and how much I loved this. And so recently I just told him, I said, this is what I want to do, and can we work this out in our family? And he just kind of went, yes. And it's been so, it makes everything so much easier, I think, because he's just kind of caught it, I think. And, you know, everything about his mannerism, and he is taking the products. And like, he made a post with the lean, and I was like, oh my gosh, he did it on his own, and he takes his products on his own. So I think us being that consistent, being that example to them, even if they're not, you know, if they're not skeptical yet, or if they're not a believer yet, you know, I think that shows a lot, because, you know, we have to deal with that with people, with customers who are skeptical. And but it is really exciting, because my husband, he likes seeing the money go in, and he likes how he feels after drinking lean. And so yeah, it's been really good for our family, actually. So
I think that's so true. Being consistent and being the example of being consistent really, really helps, for sure.
Yeah, I like what you said too about like having good posture with it, because personally, like, we've had a little bit of a struggle this month. Like, last month when I was going to rank up for Senior Ruby, my husband was so in, because he was like, I want a camper, like, let's do this. He was calling people, he was like so in it. And then I think we both got a little burnt out, and so this month we were just kind of like, ah. And so he's been a little bit more negative, but I've been more negative. Like, my mindset hasn't been as good, because I think I did probably burn myself out a little bit. And so I was just talking to him last night, because he was upset that the dishes weren't done because I was doing Plexus. But like, just listening to you guys talk, like, when I was doing my Plexus, I was not being positive about it. Like, oh, hold on, I have to answer this person. So if I'm going to be like a negative Nelly, how do I expect him to be supportive and to be on board? You know, it just, like, that to me, I just knew I needed to get on this book club tonight. And it's so funny, because it's like, yep, that's like my two struggles this month have been that, like, just not feeling that support. But I think a lot of it has come from me and my mindset. And then the other struggle has been fear. Like, for some reason, it's just been crippling me this month, and I don't know why. And it's just crazy how these two chapters are just so on point. Yeah. But your posture and your mindset is huge. So
I agree. They really hit home for me too, Erin.
That is why we have to have book clubs and Monday night calls, right?
Yeah.
It's so good. And that's such a good point too, Erin. I mean, would you be supportive of your husband's job if he was negative or hating it every day? I mean, if you love someone, you want to see them happy. If he's not seeing you happy, especially with men, like, they feel like they want to take that away. Like, why are we doing this if you're not happy, if you're not enjoying it? So that is, I've coached people do that a lot. It's actually a really good point. I think too, like Courtney was saying with her husband, like he went to leaders retreat, and I think like making them feel a part of it. It's kind of like how we get the buy-in from our team. Like we invite them to convention, we invite them to the things, even, you know, if they're hesitant, we just keep putting those little plugs in. Like that's what you do with your spouse or your kids, or even your parents, like whoever it might be. But Guthrie, then he was wearing his little bracelets, his Plexus bracelets, and he's like, oh, this person could get on the products, or that person. And I remember Cody Helmer's husband was doing the same, and Greg. All these events seem to really excite husbands too. Like they feel like they're a part of something bigger. And men, they see us sometimes like, oh, this little business that they have, isn't that cute? My wife sells a pink drink, but they don't see the bigger picture. So those of you who don't have your husbands going to convention yet, I would definitely encourage it, especially in Vegas. Like there's just something about that arena. I'm making my new husband go. We just went and got all of his clothes and stuff. He's loving the extra tonight.
And I got my husband to go too. I'm pretty excited.
Yay! That is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
My husband too, and you know, getting him to buy into it has been big as well. But then the extra money, I'm like, well, honey, you go to rental with me, we get to do these things, and with extra money that I earn from this, we can do some really cool things in Vegas. So he's pretty excited about that. And then like my kids, getting them, they're so funny. They're like my biggest spokespeople. They're like, Mom, are we going to Hawaii yet? You know? And so like I was telling Erin, I was talking to her today. I'm like, you know, my daughter the other day, she had an event at school and I wasn't able to go. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And she goes, Mom, I'm used to that. And that about killed me because I hate missing things for my kids because I'm at work. So if I can do a couple things on the phone here and there and make as much money at this job as I do at my standard job, then I'm going to be able to do more things for my kids. So my kids understand, my husband understands, and it's huge for our whole family. So my whole family, you know, understands and has the buy-in into this. So it's pretty big.
I agree. There was a part in the family chapter, Jackie, that made me think of you because it was like, let your kids get to know your team, let your spouses get to know your team. And I was like, it's so funny because Jackie's kids know whose voice she's listening to in a voice message. She'll be like, oh, is that Elizabeth? Is that Lauren? And they know who she's talking to. And I think that's so important. They're just in it with you. That's so cool.
Yeah. What's funny, they're like, when can we be Plexus? When can we do this? And I'm like, you got to be 18. They're like, but we already use Plexus. I'm like, shh. So it's pretty cool.
That's funny you say that, Jackie, because my kids have said the same thing. Because I told I was telling my husband, I think one day about, I think Bridget Ryan's son went Ruby or something like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so my son is like me. He's very outgoing, loves meeting people. And I tell my son, I'm like, if you want to do Plexus when you're 18, you go right ahead. And he asks me all the time, oh, it's going to be this. And they really get excited. Like with your son saying, oh, you talking to Lauren or talking to so-and-so. My kids will ask, you talking to Natalie? You talking to so-and-so? Because they pay attention. They pay attention to what we like. So that's funny you said that, Jackie.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, like they talk about it with their friends, or they talk, you know, my daughter, she knows what stuff works with her. And then, you know, as our kids are starting to get older, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm not sending them to college. They can do Plexus. Why am I going to have student loan debt when they can do this and have our legacy? You know, when we start to think about things that we can pass on to our families, we can pass this on to our families, and they will have this, and they're not, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because they're going to have this already established for them. So it's huge. It's the opportunity for them to be able to have not to struggle so much like we've had to, you know, and isn't that what we want to give to our kids?
So true. I'd love to not have the student loan debt.
No kidding. Well, and Lauren, too, you as a PT, and Aaron, when we look at our paychecks versus our debt ratio for PT school versus what we're getting for Plexus now, I'm like, what in the world? Why didn't I have this? How long ago, you know?
Right, exactly. I think about that all the time.
I know.
Nuts.
It's so crazy. I mean, the chapters on the fear. When I started Plexus, like I was so fearful of everything, but I just decided. I mean, like here's the thing: like this whole list of fears, you can fear not having what it takes, exhausting your network. Maybe I won't be able to meet new people. Maybe I'll be judged. Fear of rejection. All of these things, but when you overcome those fears, I mean, what would you rather live with? The fear of not having enough money when you are in the checkout line and having to put stuff away, the fear of not being able to pay for your kid's wedding, or if somebody does want to go to college, sending them to college, or the fear of losing your job, or whatever it might be. I mean, there's so many other fears. It's kind of a trade-off. Okay, I'm going to get over my fear of traveling or my fear of talking to people. Like I was afraid to talk to people. I wasn't really afraid necessarily of running out of people to talk to because I trusted the process. So I think in a lot of these things, it's just trusting the process. Fear that you're not going fast enough, or fear of the unknown, or fear that you won't be a good enough leader. Just don't worry about that stuff. Just think about the positive things is the best way to overcome fear. Like acknowledge you have the fear and then just face it. Like that's the easiest thing. I know for me, just traveling, I still have fear. I still get serious anxiety. I hate it. I am not enjoying the thought of convention when it comes to this aspect of it. The airplane, the claustrophobic, like you can't escape if someone's throwing up, like get me out of here. Like I don't want to do it. But I knew at the beginning of my business, like I have to do this. I have to talk to people. I have to send that message, or I have to get to convention. And that was a pretty big deal for me. But I knew that I had to overcome these things. Worrying about success. Like, would I be successful? Like all of these things. I mean, sitting there paralyzed by fear, it doesn't do anything. Like you just have to face it instead of like, oh, I'll work on it, or I'll work on it. It doesn't really work. The only way to get through fear is to do exactly the thing that you're scared of.
I agree. And I remember you, Fallon, talking about Super Saturday, being really afraid to do Super Saturday this year. And then they asked me to do the Super Saturday Express. And my initial reaction was like, no, why did they choose me? Like, I don't know. I'm scared to talk in front of that many people. Public speaking, you guys, it might look different right now because this month I've led calls and maybe I'm getting more comfortable with it, but it freaks me out. So for the whole month, I was freaking out about it, like thinking I was going to do this awful job, and it was a huge fear, but I knew that I needed to say yes to grow myself, to stretch myself, to become a better public speaker. I'm not going to be better at leading calls if I don't lead a call, you know, like, so if I'm afraid to do it, then that means I need to say yes to doing it, because that means I'm going to grow and learn and be better at it next time.
I think too, for me, like fear is a big thing, and to make it even more, I swear, I read a book for everything. Personal growth has become like my newest obsession, but this current book, the last chapter I'm reading, it was all on fear. And basically it just talks about how in the Bible it says fear not 366 times for a reason, because everything God leads you to do will cause fear to get you to something greater. But it says, and this is probably my favorite part of the chapter, it's talking about how Jesus was walking on water and Peter and the disciples were in the boat, and Peter asked if he could go out there and walk on water, and Jesus said yes. And it said that everything was fine for a minute, and then Peter looked at the wind and looked at the storm, and he got afraid and started sinking. And it says this: his response to the wind and the storm was to give in to fear. He lost his sense of confidence that Jesus was the master of the situation. He did not just sink in the water, but sank in his own anxiety and worry. And that's honestly all it is. You know, we should stand on confidence that no matter what, like, God will work things out for our good, and that our problem and our fear is really what causes us to lose whatever is just on the other side of that fear. It's the anxiety and the worry that we cause on our own. So just trying to truly stay focused and have confidence that everything will be okay, and that fear is, you know, just a distraction. I think is, once you can really get that in your mind and grasp that, it's really freeing.
I need the name of this book, Tara.
Yeah, really.
It is called If You Want to Walk on Water, You've Got to Get Out of the Boat.
Oh, the one Sonia Dudley recommends. Is it good? I haven't read it yet. I have it.
So good. So good. It's so good. Yeah.
Sonia Dudley is like the person who got me sold on personal growth. I wasn't doing it for the first 21 months of my business. And she said, everybody who gets stuck because they don't have the personal growth, and you need to be reading the books. And she says that book, like, you have to read that book before you can really do any other personal growth effectively. So
yeah, it's been, we've read a lot of really good ones on like book club, but there's been, I think the last few that I've read kind of on my own, this one and there's another one called Chase the Lion, have really been the most like just completely transformative in my own mind, because I'm the type of person that, like, I don't fear, I don't really care what people think of me. I'm more of like a, what if something doesn't work and I'm homeless? Like, if it affects my children, if it affects like the well-being of us, that's when it kind of gets in the way. And I will be the type of person that I won't rock the boat if it means like it could mess anything that we have going on up. So just like getting out of my own head and out of my own way and getting over my own fears, I think is just kind of what I've had to really focus on, and these books are so good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stories we tell ourselves, like, they're not even true. So it's like we're just making up things in our head, imagining, you know, so-and-so didn't respond because she doesn't like us, but really her kids have been puking for 3 days. Like, it's definitely bad to be just making up stories in our heads. You just never know what's going on. And yeah, getting over fear, like, because really it's just negative thoughts. So I love all that. I know I used to really be scared of doing like any sort of talking on book clubs or team call or making videos. And I'm glad I just listened to Fallon, because I don't think like my business would be where it's at right now if I didn't step up, because it's really part of being, like she told me, it's part of being part of a leader. So I definitely had to get over that fear. I still don't like talking. And if I have a team call, I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. So I mean, it's so normal. And if you're not doing things and you're not like, you know, doing things that you're fearful of, like you're just staying in the same place and you're not growing. And you're just the same person you were yesterday or 5 years ago.
I agree. And I think other people can definitely sense your fear too. Like if you are fearful in leading calls, or you're fearful in talking on book club, or you're fearful, you know, and all these aspects, and you're trying to reach out to people and, you know, want them to join your team, like they can totally sense that you're afraid, and they're just be like, what? Why would I join you? You know, you don't have it together. Or how can you lead from a fearful position, is kind of like what they're thinking. So yeah.
And this too, I mean, this goes so much further than Plexus. Like when you overcome these silly little fears that feel so real, somebody says that fear is just, it's really nothing, but it feels like this huge thing. Like that's what being afraid of something is. Like it really isn't usually something major, as I talk to myself, because I'm still definitely afraid of puking. But when you overcome these fears and you get over these things, it's helping in all areas of life. It's so silly, but the person I used to be and how shy I was, like I'm not now. I can actually call the IRS or the hotel to make plans for the wedding or whatever without shaking or sweating to pick up the phone because I was so shy and I was just so nervous. But Plexus has helped me with that. It's helped me with understanding how to raise my kids and working with other people. So I love that all of these things that we're learning, it's not just a skill set to become a diamond in Plexus. This is something that we can take anywhere, whether it's the corporate world or raising kids or being a better spouse. And I think that's what I love too, like just thinking beyond growing my business, need to overcome this, need to overcome that. No, like we need to overcome these fears because fear is not, I mean, it's not of God. And we need to take every thought captive.
Absolutely. I think I can't remember how many, but I think there's most humans, like the human mind, legitimate fear. There's only like a few things that people are actually truly afraid of. It's like heights, like drowning is another one. There's like, it's an instinct that takes over, and anything else is just anxiety that takes that same form, or feeling. But it's, fear is not just within our business, but as a parent, you can project your fears onto your children. You're causing generational fears by not overcoming certain things as it is, by staying fearful and not growing and not trying to break through and have these things. You're just projecting onto other people. You're projecting onto your children. They're going to be afraid to talk to somebody because you can't talk to somebody, or they're going to be afraid to do, Fallon, your kids are going to be scared to puke because you are scared to puke. Like just little things, like you project these things and we laugh about it, but some of these things that we project could be really serious. And as parents, we want better for our kids, or we don't want to project it onto our husbands, or, whatever the case may be.
That's why I love this business, because I think I can speak for myself, but I'm sure a lot of you will agree that we're very different from before Plexus. Like I never would have thought that I would lead a book club, or, I could say so many things. I never would have thought I would be any of the things that I am now. And we talk a lot about how we just don't even recognize the person that we were before in such a good way. And I think that it's definitely spanned for all of us way more than just Plexus. I feel like I'm a better wife, a better friend, a better employee, a better physical therapist, whatever the case may be. I just feel like I've grown in every area of my life. And that's why this is so cool. It's like a personal growth plan with a compensation plan attached more than anything else.
I agree. I know for my team and just for teams that you see on the leaderboard, they have a pretty strong emphasis on personal growth. Like I've looked at all of them and talked to most of them, and this is important to them. Like they understand the importance of this. And Lori always told me I wouldn't recognize myself once I was Emerald, and I was like, that is so silly. I'm going to be the exact same person. And I wasn't. Like I had changed and grown so much, and I'm so thankful for that.
Me too. Well, I've loved this book, and I just want to say that I'm so glad we did it, because it couldn't have come at a better time. And I think it was perfect timing too, because we've had so many new people join us this past couple of months. So hopefully there are some newer people on here too. This is good for all of us to hear, though, for sure. So if anybody has any final thoughts, we can probably wrap up, unless you guys have some really profound things to say. No? Well, I loved this discussion. Thanks everybody for participating. And the next book is the Color Personality book, so get excited, because that one's going to be huge for personal growth and for your business and for personal relationships with everybody in your life. So anyway, thanks a ton, and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, lady.
Bye.
Bye.